pictures, right? And I want you to pick up your pens and papers and tell me, what do you see in that? Like, what do you understand when you see those pictures? Okay, आप अनम्यूट करके बता भी सकते हैं. So there's another very beautiful book called What Everybody is Saying, which you can read if you're really interested in knowing the nuances of body language. See, the word body language itself says that, our body communicates something, right? And if you have read even the little thing about body language, our body does not lie. Our words can. We can play with the words, or we can use very flowery language. We can train ourselves to say certain things which probably you do not mean. But the connection between what the body says and brain cannot be tampered with. So, as Sir said, it's not just what you say, but how you say, right? And how it is complemented by our bodily gestures, etc., has huge, I would say, carries huge weight if you really want to decipher uh, what that person is. Okay, tell me one thing. Again, you can unmute and say this. Which are the different professions that you think rely heavily upon body language in understanding people around them? Like knowing body language and understanding body language is very critical for certain professions. Any answers, please? And please, let's make it communicative, okay? Hmm. Any answers?
Marketing.
I can't hear anybody. What professions do you think need body language or knowledge or training in body language? It's very critical for their professions. No idea?
Bhagya, ma'am, you want to say something?
Yes, I said. Which professions do you think require or fall very heavily upon understanding body language?
Ma'am, that's right. I have responses in the chat box by Rashmi, ma'am. She is saying psychology.
Okay.
And I had Bhagya, ma'am, also, but then she muted now.
Okay.
We have, yes, marketing. We have a response marketing
Yes,
in the chat
marketing.
box. Then we have corporate officials.
Yeah, very true. And police and FBI agents and uh, teachers
Uh,
and people. Hmm,
yeah, ma'am. Alpana, ma'am, is saying hotel management. A
okay,
public speaking coach and business is also one of the responses.
very true. Anybody who has to negotiate needs to understand clients very well. People from marketing and sales, they need to understand body language very well. Other than that, police needs to understand it well. Even in courts, lot of information can be deciphered just by understanding the body language of the other person. Diplomats need to understand body language pretty well because there could be language barriers, but body language is something which is universal, right? So everybody or everybody says something. We need to understand to decipher it, and we can really get host of information about other people once we start focusing on this, right? So here I show you some pictures, and please unmute and tell me what you see in that picture. Like, what is your interpretation of that picture, right? Here's the first picture. Yes. क्या लग रहा है आपको? Why don't you just unmute and say something? Because I can't see anyone. Let me see if I have the
Yes,
read.
I request Charu ma'am, Praveen sir,
हाँ बोलो, अभी तो
Rohita ma'am.
enjoy करेंगे, नहीं तो क्या फिर मैं लेक्चर पिला के चली जाती हूँ. I don't think reading mode.
मैम अपनी गूगल मीट
Hello,
पे आ
ma'am.
जाइए.
This is Charu Shweta this side. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Ma'am, through this image, in fact, through his eyes, we can see that the person seems to be very confident.
Okay.
And moreover, the dressing sense also is perfectly according to the maybe the situation.
Okay. Charu ma'am, confident people never touch their ties like this.
Okay, yes, right.
Yeah. In fact, he's feeling very uncomfortable at the moment, to be
Okay, okay.
honest with you.
Got it.
Right? When somebody is
Then
confident,
he must be preparing himself for
it could
some
be.
occasion.
Yeah. So when you're preparing, at the time that you're not really feeling confident, you are preparing yourself, as you said, to feel confident, right? So what I was trying to tell you
Absolutely.
is anybody touching their throat, here we have this little depression here, right? It's a sign of lack of confidence. Fiddling with your buttons is a sign of lack of confidence. Any fiddling, right? That's a tie ke sath bari bari aise karna. That's also lack of confidence, or you're lying, or some lack of authenticity.
Restlessness can be.
Yes,
Restless.
restlessness, distress, it could be that.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay,
let's have a
thank you.
look at next picture, and please attempt. Hmm. If this girl would say something immediately after this, what would she say?
Maybe she's feeling anxiety, ma'am. Anxiety, and moreover, she was trying to attend the presentation, and she's short of confidence. Might
Correct.
be.
She's
Yeah.
very anxious, or something like, oh my god, I never thought
Oh my
about
God,
this.
feeling.
Oh my god,
Really.
I have
That's
forgotten
right.
this. Okay. So
Yeah.
anybody, when you touch your head, forehead, again it is an indicator you're not comfortable, you're anxious, there's a kind of distress, right? So why I'm showing you these pictures is when you see your students, in these states, you understand that something is not okay with them. Okay, so decoding body language really helps us have better connection with people around us. Let's have a look at the next picture. I know the picture is little, I would say उसका वो खराब हो गया थोड़ा सा proportion, but somebody with uh, crossed hands. What do you understand by crossed hands?
Maybe he have attended the interview and possibly waiting for the result. Maybe he's
Sorry, I can't
selected.
hear you, sir. Could you be a bit louder?
Praveen sir, we
Yeah.
can't hear you.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. I'll message it.
No,
Okay.
no, sir. It was clear. You can just keep it closer to your. Ma'am, some other responses are that it's a closed body language, uninterested
Yes.
speaker. He's not
Yes.
interested in listening. He doesn't want to be part of the discussion. Not ready
Fantastic.
to share, arrogant, reservation, etc.
Brilliant responses. So anything that is closed is anything that is crossed is closed. If you know the typical
Maybe
Shah Rukh
sense
Khan,
of self-confidence after a sense of achievement after attaining something,
yeah, so it is
possibly.
one notch higher. There's a lot of arrogance in that man, in this man, right?
He's very relaxed, and he's waiting for some result, or probably his initiation in something, and probably he's waited for the result or feedback from someone, and he's looking forward to something as well. Yeah,
Okay,
ma'am.
okay. So I think you're interpreting it in your way. So what I'm trying to say
My
is
own reading.
anything that is closed, crossed, is closed, right? So whenever we are meeting our seniors, or whenever we are in public situations, right? If you're closed, you're not letting people approach you, or you're uncomfortable with other people's presence around you. Okay, the typical antithesis of this picture is the classic signature Shah Rukh Khan pose, if you know it. He expands his hand. Imagine this man has using this particular gesture. I don't know whether you can see me or not doing it, but he has become the king of Bollywood. So if crust is closed, expansion, it's open, right? And it says how open, that openness is acceptance, that openness creates connections, right? So the opposite of cross is open. Open in terms of being more accepting, being more receptive, right? But when you are kind of, if you look at this very posture, and if you keep this person's hands on his back, इसी posture में, if this person takes his hands on his back, typically on his hips, right? That's one of the most relaxed postures. Just tries to visualize that posture in your head. When you're absolutely relaxed, your legs are little apart, and your hands are on your hips. That's very relaxed. Normally, when we go for holidays and all, and you're watching something and you're looking at something, you can catch yourself in that pose, because we are very relaxed, we are enjoying the surroundings and everything of that sort. Now, same posture, and the hands go on the sides of your body. Same posture, and the hands, they make a V on the sides of your body. This means I'm ready to fight. Ajao. Okay, so every movement of our body, the positioning of things on our body, it's an indicative of uh, what's going on within us, right? And one of the easiest ways to know more about body language and understand body language better is watch an interview and just mute the whole conversation. Or while watching a movie, just mute the conversation. I promise you, just through the videography without any sound, you will be able to understand, deduce a lot about what is going on in that scene, what kind of interaction might be having, what are people feeling at that moment. Is it a sad point? Is it romantic? Right? Is it excitement? Is it grief? We can easily make out all those things. But that is more from the facial features. Sorry, facial expressions. We'll talk more about that. Okay. Yes. What is this?
Hello.
Anji?
Uh, Ma'am, can we also read, if we like go back to the previous picture, can we also read something into the positioning of his legs? Because if I can interpret it, his legs are a little far apart, which also, in a way, suggests him taking more physical space than
Absolutely.
his body allows him. So
Very
that also portrays him to be kind of trying to be a little bossy, maybe,
Very true.
or larger than the persona that he actually is. So can we like interpret it that way as well?
It's bang on, ma'am. This is territorial behavior. See, that's why I said that he's
Yes.
arrogant. He's arrogant because,
Yes.
as you said, that he's trying to carry. He's already taken much more of space, proxemics we call it, right? Much more of space than otherwise his body would have taken.
Okay, so here you have given me a term as well, territorial
Behavior.
space.
Yes, territorial space,
Okay.
territorial behavior. So animals, they mark their scent. We can't mark our scent. How do we assert our, as you said, status? Territorial behavior,
Yes.
like how much space are you occupying somewhere. So you just imagine, okay, good, you talked about it. The
Ma'am,
reverse of this, the opposite of this, it's called turtling. Turtle kya karta hai? He sticks his neck inside his body. So anybody who is
Yes.
underconfident, right, would have
Yes.
droopy shoulders and this kind of a posture, not feeling confident. हम कहते हैं ना,
Hmm.
chin up, right? So they will stick their neck.
Yes.
You will not be able to see their necks. So look for these postures around you, and you'll be able to make out what is the mental state of that particular individual. The moment result is out, You have gotten better marks, your body language will change. The moment you see the report card and not up to the expectation, you'll droop, right? So that's how our body behaves. It's a very good observation, ma'am.
Yes, also if we read like patriarchal aspects into it, so men are usually seen to be standing or sitting with legs wide open. So that again, I mean, can be read to be a sign of patriarchy.
Totally. Look at this. Probably this is what you're talking about,
Yes, that also is true.
isn't it? Look at the position, how casual this person is. Look at the way
Yes.
he's occupying or his angle of his back. So casual,
Hmm.
isn't it?
Yes.
So you may sit like
Yes.
this, maybe in a restaurant, maybe, or most probably you'll see people sitting like this at home. Imagine, just imagine, okay? There's a candidate who has come for an interview. He's waiting for his turn and sitting in this posture.
Yes. I mean,
For
that's
me,
absolutely inappropriate.
correct. It is inappropriate. And anybody who's observing body language, I mean, this is a straight no, because this posture indicates how casual you are. And if on an
This
interview,
Yes, ma'am. This posture actually seems to be saying out quite loudly, I don't care a damn.
correct, absolutely. Or it's saying, hey, you, who are you? Do you really, I mean,
Yes.
you don't stand a chance in front of me, right? Do you
Yes.
really think you're worth standing up and talking to me? Or are you really worthy of my attention? That's what this person is saying.
Yes.
How loud and clear this,
Very true.
isn't it? So we got to
Yes,
be
ma'am.
mindful of our postures and everything because body says it all. All right. Let's go back to this posture now. Yeah. Who's attempting? Very universal indicator. Yes.
Ma'am, I think this is
We lost you, ma'am. Sorry, can't hear you. Try again, ma'am. I couldn't hear you.
ma'am, I think she means to say while pointing out towards somebody,
Mm.
she may be blaming the
Yes,
next person that you are wrong, I am right. She is trying
totally.
to prove that I am right, you are wrong.
Yes. Pointing fingers means you're accusing someone, right? And you can see the annoyance on her face. And just a look at this, and we can figure it out that she's annoyed, she's unhappy, and she's accusing somebody or holding somebody or blaming, as ma'am said, blaming somebody for whatever, right? So, देखो, just a picture, and we can decode the whole story around that. Yes. Clenched fists. What do you think it indicates?
Showing cooperative, something cooperative, coexistence.
Cooperative would be had it been two people, ma'am.
Okay, okay, right.
Okay. One is this, another is this. Which out of the two do you think is showing comfort or a relaxed posture?
Second one.
I think this one is
Second one.
showing bit
Absolutely. So
relaxed.
most of the times you will see that people who are very comfortable talking in public or they're very confident about themselves, they'll have this posture. I can't do this. It doesn't come naturally to me. But I've often noticed it that people, many times professors, you're explaining something and you really have complete knack over it. You know the topic well, your hands will go like this, right? This is again confidence, composure, and comfort. You're absolutely relaxed. Okay. अभी देखो. Would you like to decode it? It's just the opposite of that. Let me drop you this hint also.
Ma'am, is it the reserved nature?
Reserved, holding himself back, uncomfortable.
Ma'am, impatient.
इम्पेशंस में मूवमेंट बहुत होता है. हाँ, इम्पेशेंट भी हो सकता है. सो बेसिकली दिस पर्सन is in distress, uncomfortable, holding some information back. So policemen, or agents who do questioning and interrogation, they look for a lot of these postures. If somebody is like this, you're holding back information, or it's a clear cut indicator that you're going through a lot of distress and discomfort. Now while you're getting interrogated, if you're distressed and discomfort, it's a great likelihood that you're lying or not really saying the truth, right? So this is another thing. Okay, let's have a look at this. Yes,
Nervous.
totally. Right? We start biting we say nail biting story. Right? So this is a clear cut indicator that the character is nervous. Yeah. What do you see here?
Cheerful.
Cheerful. What else?
Appreciation.
Appreciation. Yes.
Lack of etiquettes while communicating with other people. Pocket in hand in pockets. It's not allowed. It's not.
I agree. That is your judgment of it. Yes, we take out our hands when we are meeting or greeting someone. However, what does it tell you about this person's state of mind?
Happy enough.
Happy, yes. Cheerful,
He's calm.
Giving another one a chance to speak.
yes, please.
Giving another one a chance to speak.
Yeah,
Chance to
absolutely.
speak.
He's greeting someone. He's open. He's receptive. That's what you want to say. So just
Saying
look.
now it's your turn. He is saying like this.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yes. Or maybe he's just about to greet somebody. But everything is converging at this point that this person is receptive, responsive. See, he's approaching someone. You understand? When you're closed, when you have crossed yourself, you're saying, "Stay away from me," or this is guard. This guard is up. Let me tell you, you don't only guard yourself with cross arms, you guard yourself with cross legs also. When you put one leg over the other, that's also a guard, that's also a protection, right? You're probably not very comfortable in presence of the other person. So more expansive you are, greater your comfort level. More you are shrinking your body space, clearly indicates that you're not very comfortable in the presence of this particular individual. Yes. How do you decode this?
Facing the interviewer.
Could you repeat that, sir? Sorry, I couldn't understand.
Facing the interviewer.
बिल्कुल ठीक है, वो तो आप सिचुएशन बता रहे हैं. While facing the interviewer, sir, how do you see? How is she feeling?
Lost in
Face
thoughts.
looks nervous.
Yes,
She looks little bit nervous.
Exciting.
she is nervous. When
Exciting.
Hmm. Your hands on your thighs, sitting like this, is absolutely nervous, right? Normally, pata nahi chalta. Normally, rather, when I also train people for interview sessions and all that, I tell them to sit in this posture, because if you are nervous and you're not putting your hands on your thighs, you're doing a lot of extra gestures, right, which might interfere with the interviewer's perception or processing of what you're trying to say, right? So you I would not say guessed it right. You judged it absolutely right that she's very nervous at this moment. Yes, again,
Also, Shilpa, ma'am, I would like to add that
please.
she seems to be sitting opposite to a person of authority, maybe her boss or an interviewer. So
Totally.
she's a little nervous. She her body posture. She through her body posture, she's trying to be very appropriate, maybe.
Yeah.
Keeping her hands at a particular position and legs as well. But again, it's not a comfortable position for her to be because her face says something else.
Yes, absolutely. She looks little stiff also, and at the same time trying to be little pleasant also. So it all seems to be doctored. But yeah, one thing is absolutely clear that she's not her normal self. Okay, brilliant. Yes. What do you see here? I had already dropped the hint in the beginning. Hand on the neck is always nervousness.
Yes.
You may have seen some women, fiddling with their chains, right?
Yes.
Nervousness. Okay, or men setting up their ties again and again, and this is all nervousness. Okay, so if you catch somebody this, try to calm them down. Like this person has come for an interview, and you are seeing them do these gestures. There's a child in your class, a student in your class, doing these gestures. Understand that this person is nervous. Yes. How do you decode this?
She seems to be in a little playful mood, joyful, and maybe cracking a joke, being very comfortable in her skin right now.
Yes. Look at the position of her toe. What do you see in that, or how do you interpret it? She's in a one-up situation. She's probably narrating something to someone where she really has cracked something, or she has won something, or something has happened in her favor. Look at the position of her toe upward. It clearly says that something good has happened to her, or some achievement has happened to her, right? Now I'm going to share something very interesting with you. Our feet are the probably we talk a lot about face, but our feet are one of the best indicators of how interested this person is in the conversation that is going on. If if you are saying certain things, this person is facing you, his body is also positioned towards you, but if the feet are positioning, or the feet are have turned towards the door, please try to understand this, that you are a big bore, and the moment you will stop, this person is going to run away from the conversation, right? So whenever you are uh, you know in a conversation, just try to look for how feet are positioned. If the feet do not seem to be aligned with the body position, and they're kind of pointing towards the door, it's time for you to switch the off button, or press the off button. This person is not interested in any kind of conversation with you. Okay, mind that. All right, so these were the different you know uh, I would say pictures that I wanted to share with you. And see, you know it already. Like body really speaks much louder than what do I say? Our verbal clues. Okay. Now let's talk about oh, body language per se, and beyond just the body language, non-verbal communication. So non-verbal communication है क्या? It's a way we convey information through facial expressions, gestures, touch. Touch is a very touchy thing. So one has to be very cautious while using touch as a tool of communication. It's called as haptics. Then there is physical movement called kinesics, right? Jesse, for example, there are people who are constantly shaking their legs. Again, it speaks volumes about how restless they are, right? There are people who are extremely animated most of the time, right? We consider them or we look at them as histrionic personalities. Too much movement, right? Inappropriate, or there is hardly any connection between what they are saying and how they are exhibiting it. Postures. What you just saw in all the pictures were a lot of postures, right? This chap sitting bilkul casually is a posture. Body adornments, clothes, jewelry, hairstyle, tattoos. वो एक हिंदी में एक ऐड है ना, हर घर कुछ कहता है। ऐसे आप जो पहनते हैं, आप how you carry yourself, right? Your choice of clothes, your choice of jewelry, what kind of hairstyle do you have? Like ever since I have come absolutely more into training, my hair, I've gotten them shortened because that's like it shows more contemporary and little. I don't want to call it authoritative, but yes, you are an authority in your field. Look at the world leaders, world women leaders. Most of them, Indira Nui, I can think of, right? Most of the, I mean, you see her shorter haircut and many more, right? Now the tone, the timbre, the volume of your voice, everything matters. So why I'm saying that all this matters is because as teachers, not only what you're saying in the classroom, what you're doing, how you walk, how you carry yourself, what's the choice of, you know, clothes that you have, the jewelry you wear or not wear, everything is a statement. And these days, we're talking about personal branding a lot, isn't it? So really, it counts a lot what you wear, how you talk, your choice of words, and even not saying anything. Somebody needs to switch off their mics. Please check. It's causing me disturbance. There was a survey that was done on students, and these are. Manisha, can we check whose mic needs to be shut?
Yes, ma'am. Sadia, ma'am, you wish to say something because you even raised your hand. Sadia, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Please,
Ma'am, you
please.
talked about hairstyles, and this reminds me of this writer, Chimamanda Adichie. She's an Afro American writer, and you can find a lot of videos of her on YouTube. And she's a good speaker, as a good orator as well. And she has like tried to portray hair as political, as social, as carrying cultural inscriptions as well. So I mean, hair, as you talked about, it's not just a hairstyle. It's far more than that. So I
You're
would
right.
suggest that I mean, you can check out this writer as well,
I
Chimamanda
see.
Adichie. I'll write her name here.
Thank you. I'll check it definitely. Now that she said it, that people from Africa, most of the African nation, the tiny braids, thin braids in their hair, they're so proud of their cultural, way of doing their hair. So yes, food, hair, clothes, they go much beyond, as ma'am rightly puts it, uh, our profession and all that. It speaks volume about the culture we come from and the heritage that we carry and the values that we carry. Right. Okay. Coming to the survey, the teachers tend to look away when a difficult topic is being discussed. Right. Difficult here. So there will be less eye contact. Teachers don't want to be asked too many questions from that topic. Me and my friend not take classes seriously when teachers are irregular and unpunctual. Sorry. So with the Pramod sir, you can't even be a minute late, right? So because it's called chronomics, and this is a beautiful concept. Time is a language. Even time has a language. So there's this person you desire to interview who's supposed to be interviewed at 11 o'clock, and this one reaches your office or reaches the college at 11:15. Yes. What is the impression you follow of this person? You create of this person? Anybody? Will you judge this person for being late for an interview? Do you form an opinion on the basis of just being late? Yes or no?
No, ma'am, not at all.
Okay. But time definitely has a language. And I'm glad that you don't, but normally we'll assume that this person is casual. Okay, you ask this person that, you were supposed to be here at this time. How did you get late? Maybe there was a specific reason or an explanation for that. However, when people are late, we start doubting their commitment towards the job. Like we normally think that if you cannot come on time for an interview, can I really trust you with classes? Can I really trust you with my students? So time has a language. Teachers make eye contact with favorite students. Yes, definitely. Teachers' movement in the classroom makes students active. So if you're just standing in one position and delivering a session, and if you're moving around and doing that, that's the difference between teachers and trainers, right? So teachers normally stand behind the podium. Okay, even this standing behind the podium, it creates a physical barrier between you and your students. Let me tell you, right? So a lot of teachers, a lot of speakers, they don't like to stand behind the podium. They would stand right, between the audience, or they will come down from that little pedestal and they will come down to the level of the classroom. People do that also, because pedestal means you're a little higher. If you're a little higher means there's distance, vertical distance between you and the other person. Imagine, even these things, they count. I must tell you this, okay? So Dr. Kalam, he was invited as a speaker, chief guest in a particular occasion, and there were 5 chairs on the podium, you may say, or the stage, right? And his chair was different from the rest of the chairs. He says, why this distinctive treatment to me? He made sure that that tall looking or big looking chair was removed, and there was a chair was called which was just the same as the rest of the chairs, right? So what I'm trying to tell you is that a bigger chair is also a statement that you are more respectable than the rest of us. But he, being the humble man he was, he says, please don't get into all that. Smiling teachers teach more effectively than teachers who are always serious or frowning. So, students look for all these clues. They read your facial expressions. The frowns and smiles really matter to them. The moment you're frowning, they will know, ma'am ka mood acha nahi hai, right? Or your smile says that, okay, she's in a good mood, and they may take some liberty. They like to take some liberty with you that day. So, only 7% is spoken words and 93% is non-verbal communication. 55% is the non-verbal gestures, body language, and 38% is tone of the voice. Isn't it? Wahan jana, wahan jana. There's a difference, right? So how you say it also makes a lot of difference. Yes. Now let's talk about effective nonverbal communication for teachers, right? One of the clues or one of the strategies that can make your teaching very effective is learning to take a pause. Because every time you say something and then you take a pause, you're able to quickly assess how much your students understood what is being said. Also, your taking a pause gives them some time to process that information better, right? It will enhance their understanding and their comprehension skills. if you're really shooting in the classroom, da 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 da, da, it becomes too monotonous, right? There is no intonation in the voice, right? There is no rhythm there. As a result, the classes start appearing to become boring. So whenever you have to say things, if you take a pause before it and after it, right, you're allowing thinking space between your statements, and that's very, very important. Also, in that pause, there might be a question that comes to your student's mind, right? And that pause allows that student to muster the courage to, chip in that question there. Also, during that pause, if you kind of look at the different students in your class and you maintain eye contact with each one of them or many of them at that time, right? Again, this eye contact can help you decipher how they are kind of receiving your information or whatever you're sharing with them, right? And during that pause, if you find a lot of confused faces, blank faces, right? You can understand that you got to reframe what you have just said, or you need to explain it again, or you sometimes ask is, hey, I can see you look very confused, right? Do you have a question? I don't think you agree with this statement. So that is how connections are formed, no? While you are teaching. Also, this pause and these little conversations between the subject matter that is to be taught to the students, right? This pause helps you appear sensitive as a sensitive person. If I say, hey, I don't think you've got this. I can see you're confused. I can see that there is a doubt in your head. That creates connections, right? And that leads to a nonverbal attunement between you and your students, right? And that also creates that, or that reduces the gap between the instructor and the receiver, because you know that this instructor has the patience and receptivity to check if whatever is being shared in the classroom is well received, and if not, how this person can enhance that understanding and comprehension. Because let's be very clear, teaching learning process has to be student centric, or else what's the point? Tell me one thing, who's the hero of the class, or who's the most important person in the class? Yes, according to you? Is it the teacher or the taught? Is the education or classes about teachers, or is it about students? What's your take on it? Are there any responses?
Request the participants to kindly unmute and respond.
Yes. It is about students, right? So they are the heroes of the class. Because there's no point taking up a class and coming out of the class where you could not really serve the purpose of education or learning. You could not deliver in a manner that the person on the other hand who was to receive that information hasn't really gained much out of that, isn't it? So yes, pausing, it is very, very important while taking classes.
या मैडम आपकी ना पीपीटी द्वारा से कर लीजिए आप।
हाँ जी, हाँ जी,
आगे आप।
ओके।
और ना आप अपना जो पीपीटी वाला जो आपका सॉफ्टवेयर है ना, उसको भी अपडेट कर लीजिए विंडो को, क्योंकि इसमें वो ऑप्शन नहीं आती जिसमें आप ना बुक स्लाइड शो कर सकते हो।
Yes.
उसमें फिर देन साइमल्टेनियसली यू कैन डू दिस।
Very true. I'll do that, sir. Thank you. Okay. Next is eye hand coordination. That is also very important. See, with we using these digital platforms. Acha, now let me ask you this question: do you think our reliance on nonverbal clues has increased or decreased with the digital platforms? What's your take on that? Yes,
Madam, I think it has decreased drastically because we don't see people now.
exactly, sir. We
We
don't
don't
see
see
people.
people. जो बहुत सारी जो टच थी वो मतलब चाहे वो डिस्टेंस से टच थी चाहे वो एक्चुअली फिजिकल टच था वो खत्म हो रहे थे पहले.
Yes. So that is why, we keep requesting as a speaker, I keep requesting few people, please switch on your cameras. The connections become better, right? Or agar hum sab cameras on kar le, if we actually sit with cameras on, in that situation, what do you think? Will our reliance on body language increase or decrease? Or will do we fall back more on the physical body language cues or less if everybody has the cameras on? What's your take? It will increase
I want
considerably.
participants to increase, Madam Alpana has said. Yeah.
Yes. Because we are not physically in the same space, right? So we will actually rely more upon the verbal as well as non-verbal clues that are available while whatever a meeting is going on. Or so imagine there's a very important meeting going on and you're slouching, isn't it? Or you're not well dressed. Remember what was happening in COVID days? People were dressed up only on the upper half of their body, right? And anything, pajamas or shorts or anything, isn't it? So, but the reverse, we never did that, right? Because, as I said in the last two slides ago, that even dressing up, how do you dress up also matters, right? So thus eye hand coordination, right? This is eye hand coordination actually is more needed when we are teaching younger students, because let me tell you, we think in three modes. Okay, there is sensory motor thought. We think in terms of bodily movements and bodily gestures. We think in terms of icons and pictures. It's called iconic thinking, and we think symbolically, that is language. So, younger you are, less you rely on language for understanding and thinking. Adults, we rely a lot on language, but however, the primitive understanding or the rudimentary understanding still goes back to movement, gesture, body language, etc. Right? I always say this, I'm a dog lover, right? If you know one dog, you know all the dogs. I have spent so much time with the street dogs, etc. I decipher their language. I know what does it mean when they are surrendering, or what does it mean when they are say scratching themselves, isn't it? So why I'm bringing this is that body language is much rudimentary than language. From their bark, I can make out a lot of things. That, oh, there is intrusion in the territory. Oh, I know this thing would have happened, right? So movement and coordination between what you are saying and what you are doing, and between various parts of your body, it's extremely important for us to appear as an authentic whole in front of the students. When there is more coordination between what I'm saying and what I'm doing, right? I come out, or I show up like a more authentic person. That's very important. Authenticity is very important. Integrity is very important from a teacher's perspective. Yes. Now we talk about proxemics. There's a diagram on your right. Uh, there is this person as a purple dot. The closest space to that purple dot is the intimate space, right? Then starts the personal space. Okay? then comes social space, and in the end is public space. My husband has just been posted to Bombay, I mean, about a year ago. And he said that in Bombay, there's hardly any concept of personal space because, space wise, Bombay has such a huge constraint, and we all have seen and heard of these locals being jam packed and buses being jam packed there. He says people don't mind to be, if they are touched here or there, or they are really standing very close to each other, they don't mind that. You understand? There is so much of spatial constraint that the concept of personal space is very different there in comparison to how we North Indians might behave. Somebody is really standing this close to ourselves. Now, proxemics. Why is it important to study from the nonverbal perspective? Because the distance between two people is an indicator of how close, how thick, how friendly they are to each other. Right? From the space between two people, you can make out the kind of relationship that they share. Right? So similarly, the distance between the teacher and the student can convey very important information about teacher's authority and accessibility. Like I had given you example of Dr. Kalam just now. There are so many speakers who never stand behind the podium because they feel it's a physical barrier. They will not even stand on this stage. They will come down and they will address the audience from the vertical space of the audience. Isn't it? Okay. Now, standing too close to someone could be very intimidating. Isn't it? If you're too close, it could be intimidating unless the other person is comfortable or you are comfortable in that close proximity of that person. It's called proxemics, right? Too far would mean lack of interest and engagement. If there is too much of gap, that also means that there is hardly any connection, right? And by being aware of the proximity to the students, teachers can convey their level of interest, concern, and engagement. I clearly remember when we were young students, right? If somebody is making, or whispering or talking while the class was on, the teachers who were very smart and who did not want to disrupt the flow of the class, they would just do nothing but stand right on the head of that child who was whispering or murmuring or talking while the class. Isn't it? I told you that it is intimidating. Somebody this close to you, imagine traveling in a public bus or a train and somebody being very close to you. We are uncomfortable about that, right? So we can always use knowledge of proxemics, like, okay, that is more of eye contact, to resolve certain things, to diffuse volatile situations, right? Whenever there is some conflict, increase the gap between you and the other person, where if you could be two parties in the conflict, right? Whereas what do we see? Like in road rage and all, people come out of their cars and they are just on each other, ready to pounce. The closer you are to each other, the greater the probability or the possibility that a little feud can actually turn into a volatile, heated argument, right? So spatial distance also counts. That's very important. Vocal expression. It's a very powerful tool. Now let's suppose somebody comes to me with a list of grievances, lot of complaints, high, sharp pitched voice, decibels really high. Okay? I can very easily diffuse this situation by deciding to use tone, pitch, and volume, which is totally antithesis of the tone, pitch, and volume this person has come to you with. We're talking about vocal expression, right? I'll give you many examples to explain that. Okay? So let's suppose this student enters your class. Good morning, ma'am. How are you? And you say, good morning. Go sit. You said good morning, but your vocal expression did not show any excitement or the same excitement as this child. See, I'm a practicing psychologist. I always need to attune my volume, my pitch, and everything as per my client's volume, pitch, etc., etc. Sometimes it has to be attuned, and sometimes it has to be absolutely like complementary or diametrically opposite. Because I see so many emotions, in my office, right? So when people are excited, okay, you got to match your vocal expression with that excitement if you really want that connection to get formed. Hi, if somebody says same tone, same excitement, same everything, hi, right? Now there are clients who are depressed, comes to my office, right? Hi, Shilpa. Do you think I can say, hi, how are you doing? So good to see you. They'll be like, what's wrong with her? Right? So when they come with the drooped shoulders and a very murmur and a very low pitch and low tone, I actually attune and I say, hello, how are you doing? Right? So your voice expresses so much about what kind of connections you can form with other people based upon your decision that whether it is time to get synchronized with the vocal expressions of the other person, or it's time that you take charge and somehow diffuse that situation. Yesterday there was this husband and wife who would have spent about 2 hours in my office, and there was emotions flowing. The volume was really high, right? And they had no idea how loud they were. And my office is it's an extension of my house only. They were least bothered, right? So I let them be for a little while, and when it was my time to talk, I really lowered my volume. I really worked on, the voice tonality, which was a clue to them that you're very loud. And, this is inappropriate the way you're behaving in the office. So, by varying the tone and pace, emphasizing, like when you have to emphasize certain key points, obviously, you lay more stress on those points. Sometimes you have to convey enthusiasm. Sometimes, you got to show a lot of excitement while you are teaching, isn't it? You got to express how passionate you are about those certain things. Everything can be expressed just through the tonality of our voice. Voice is a very powerful tool, so is language, right? Use it to your advantage. Then we come to dressing and attire, isn't it? For every occasion, there's a befitting attire, right? So when you dress up well to your college, again, the message you're sharing with the rest of your colleagues is, I really am serious about this job. Isn't it? I'm excited towards this job. So, clothing that is neat, well fitting, appropriate for the educational setup, it's very important. So, whenever we have a function in the college, isn't it? It's convocation or it's annual function or some maybe somebody's visiting the college, right? Our dress sense is very different than probably how we come to college every day. So, too casual clothes will undermine your authority and professionalism. Remember that, right? The way I wear a coat and a scarf, uh, how I feel about myself professionally, it's 2-3 notches higher. Yeah. So, there are courses being done, dress to impress courses. And we have a full fledged profession nowadays called image consultants, if you've heard of that, right? Who do an external overhauling of you. What kind of clothes suit you, what kind of clothes can be passed as, we say business suits. We have started talking about all those things. And then, you have heard of airport looks and those kind of things. So what I'm trying to say is, yeah, what you wear, also speaks a language. It conveys a lot of things about you. So don't take what you wear casually, right? Adjust your attire based on specific teaching context. So if you're teaching in a formal institution like an MBA institution, right, you may need to dress up more formally compared to a casual environment like a community center, or maybe on an outdoor education, like when you're going taking a trip outside or something like that. You can be dressed up anyway. You will not see anybody dressing up, wearing jeans and all in banks on weekdays. Saturdays still they have little relaxed rules, right? Similarly, I would see a lot of men wearing black shoes with brown pants. These are disasters, isn't it? So a little bit of understanding. People will wear sneakers and sport shoes with coats and pants. Don't do that, right? Sport shoes, sneakers, they are considered kya? They qualify as casuals, right? While you're going in a classroom, you can't be wearing your sport shoes or your sneakers. Okay, if there's a medical condition, I understand that. However, I've even seen women, in their suits, like normal suits and dupattas, but wearing sports shoes. Okay, the day maybe you have to do a lot of running around, etc. You can still do that, but not every day. If you're a PT teacher, go ahead, do that, right? We have very other comfortable shoes called pumps, right? You can just slip your foot into it. It's very, very comfortable to wear. So appropriate clothes, really, it's a signature, right? So if you're teaching in a formal institute, obviously your choice of clothes need to be different. But if you're taking children to field trips, or it's an outdoor class, or you are going out somewhere, it's okay. You can take some liberty. Age appropriate attires, right? Adapt your clothing choices to the age group that you teach, isn't it? Now let's suppose you're teaching MBA students. MBA is one course where they're going to be a part of the workforce immediately after that. Even in ITIs, you are teaching children and you're upskilling children, and they will be a part of the workforce immediately after finishing these classes, right? So why don't you become a role model, or why don't you be a teacher whom you really look up to? Like, I really want to dress up like her. I really admire her dressing sense, or probably fashion sense, though I don't believe in fashion in colleges. But yes, dressing up makes a lot of difference, right? So with older students, subdued colors, more professional attires, it speaks volumes about how much you care for your job and what an impression you want to put up. And then eyes, or eye contact. This is beautiful ghazal by Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan Saab. Afreen, Afreen. If you've heard that Qawwali, it's not a ghazal, sorry, it's a Qawwali. There's a whole paragraph that has been dedicated to eyes. है ना? आंखें ऊंची उठी तो दुआ बन गई, आंखें नीची हुई तो हया बन गई. And there are 2-3 more lines. So, when you give a second look to someone, you're telling them, I like you. But when you're constantly looking at somebody, you're giving them a threat. Beware of me. Isn't it? Because at that time, a gentle gaze, it becomes a very stern look, right? So the way somebody looks at you, or you look at somebody, I must tell you this. I was quite moved when I realized that, parents who scold their children a lot, or who have anger issues, when we are gussa, when we are angry, our facial expression changes and our eyes become big. So those tiny little babies, when they're repeatedly shouted at with those angry faces and big eyes, they stop making eye contact with people. It's very harsh for such children to maintain or even make an attempt to make eye contact with people. They will always be hiding here and there and looking for reasons not to create a eye contact, because looking at other people's eyes, they're very scared because they have had very harsh eyes, staring at them while they were growing up. Right? So please, let's be aware of those things. I mean, this is especially for those people on this call who are parents who have small children. Don't scare them with your looks, right? Or else they'll make these beliefs about the world. It's a big bad world. Big people are very nasty, isn't it? We don't want children to have such beliefs. Okay. On the other hand, a gentle maintenance of eye contact or looking at everybody around you helps in giving a message or delivering a message that you are engaged. I give you another tip here. Okay? If there is a conflict between you and somebody, you can avoid that conflict by simply not choosing to look at that person or looking or making an eye contact with that person. The moment this person starts yapping, just start looking away. Because the moment you look away, the engagement in the conflict decreases. Right? Also, when we're looking at someone, you're ensuring that this person pays attention and focuses on what you are saying because that person is being watched. They are being looked at. And we also know that gentle eye contacts, they help us in building up rapports with people around us. Isn't it? So you really want to initiate a conversation with someone, just try to start with making an eye contact with that person. Right? And also, eye contact gives a very loud and clear message to the audience or to the students that you are listening to them. Like if you remember, in our previous session, I told you there are 3 basic psychological needs: to be seen, to be heard, and to be valued. And giving or maintaining eye contact, a gentle eye contact with someone, you actually share or you actually fulfill all 3 needs of that person. You're looking at that person, you're making them feel heard, and when you are making somebody feel seen and heard, the message is you're valuable to me. I care for you. And your presence matters to me. Okay? But also, we got to be sensitive that there exist cultural differences in eye contact. Eastern cultures, Oriental cultures, shy cultures, right? They make lesser eye contact. Rather, they avoid eye contact. You try it with Chinese and Japanese people, right? Some people are comfortable with little less eye contact because otherwise they feel that, oh, too much of engagement with the authority and that suddenly becomes little threatening and intimidating for them. Whereas there could be others who respond to that eye contact with sustained eye contact, right? So understand that if there is somebody who comes from a lower socioeconomic status, somebody comes from a difficult background, right? Or maybe, minority, they will have difficulty in maintaining eye contact. Certainly they will have. They're all the time conscious of being watched, right? They will feel that there's a CCTV camera and I'm under surveillance, right? So different population, again coming from psychology, trauma victims, rape victims, women from trafficking, when with them eye contact can be a very harsh thing. It's very difficult for them to take that. And some people are just like sensitive to eye contact. They'll say, "Kyun dekh rahe ho mere ko? Why are you constantly looking at me? Why are you constantly gauging me?" Right? So there are individual differences here as well. Yes. Now we talk about touch and haptics. As I said, touch is a very powerful and effective teaching strategy and a very powerful and effective I would say, tool to say that I care, but at the same time, it's very tricky because it can be understood as an inappropriate gesture, right? So I'm a trauma informed psychologist, right? Can't go into details of that, but people who come to me after facing some trauma in their lives, like there's this client of mine who was ragged in college, he had to leave his padai because of that. He could not take it. This is other client of mine uh, who has had a very harsh childhood. She's a senior doctor in one of the leading hospitals in Chandigarh, right? But yeah, I mean, she's very touchy, very sensitive, and this thing. So when you work with people who have come from traumatic experiences, you can't just go touch them. Oh, you can startle them, right? So I always take their permission. Is it okay if I touch you on your right shoulder? Are you comfortable with my hand on your shoulder? Right. So you have to seek permission most of the time. Otherwise, in our culture, putting your hand on someone's shoulder says, "I'm there for you." Isn't it? It's like giving some kind of "you have my back" kind of feeling. So with students also, you got to be cautious, especially cross gender. Men have to be very cautious using touch and haptics with female students, right? There have been cases of harassment and all those things. So be very mindful of using touch as a tool, right? Yes, boundaries needs to be there. Again, cultural norms and individual sensitivities. I just shared all that with you. How about touch can also say very positive, very supportive um, kind of a gesture. It can be taken as that also, right? So yes, these days it's very important that we ask somebody, "May I hug you?" Right? Because as Pramod was sharing with all of you, we did some workshops for us, this airport staff before they had to host G20. So we told them about the cultural differences, right? Some cultures, they don't like touch at all. It's offensive in those cultures, right? So as teachers, you just got to be mindful of that. And now that I'm talking about individual sensitivities and cultural norms and boundaries, I remember Pramod sir also narrated some incident between him and his sister. So we Indians, especially Punjabis, we are very intrusive, right? We will straight away ask very we will say कि these are very simple straight questions, but those questions could be taken as very intrusive questions. Like, let me share this with you. Till few years ago, we thought that gender is binary. It's not anymore. It's fluid, isn't it? LGBTQ. I mean, there are men who feel they are more women than men, and there are women who feel more women, more men than women. बहुत सारे combinations हो गए. It's fluid. We use the term gender fluid now, right? Similarly, family dynamics. So many people choose not to get married. So many people get married and then they choose to have separate lives. So many people get married but don't want to have children, or maybe they're not able to have a child, bear a child. So maybe the lady is not able to conceive. The moment you meet people of certain age, so what does your husband do? Oh, really? Maybe this woman does not have a husband, or maybe they've just broken off. These are very intrusive questions. So, how many children do you have? Really? So, the most neutral kind of question is, tell me something about your family. So, how about your family? Let them decide. Right? So, yes, I've got a little off track from nonverbal communication, but I thought it's very important for we teachers at least to know not to ask questions which can be leading questions and intrusive questions, right? With your students also. मम्मी क्या करती है, पापा क्या करते हैं, हो सकता है उसकी मम्मी हो ही नहीं, maybe she's not there, right? So the most sensitive type way of asking, or most courteous way of asking this question is, so what about your family? Or would you like to share something about about your family? I have this client, I met her a few days ago, very chirpy, this and that. I say, are you married? No, I'm not. How old are you? 38, right? So I mean, yeah, people are 38 and they don't choose to get married. It's okay. Right? Next question cannot be, oh, you're 38 and yet not married. How are you concerned about that? Doesn't she know that she's 38 and she has to get married? Isn't it? So let's restrain from asking those cliched, stereotypical questions. We live in a very liberal world now, and people are making very subjective choices regarding how do they want to lead their life. Let's honor it. Okay? So this is more or less what I wanted to tell you about nonverbal communication. And there's another video that I wish to share with you, which covers up lot about nonverbal communication, especially in the setting in the teacher's setup. So basically, today we have talked about proximity, how close or far, vocal expression, how it makes a difference, dressing up, chronomics, time, eye contact, right, touch, and haptics. Okay? All right. Let's watch this video. On non-verbal communication. By the way, Grinder has been one of the leading personalities who has given neuro-linguistic programming with another colleague of his.
Hi, my name is Michael Grinder. Have you ever wondered why people sometimes talk about nonverbal communication in the classroom? Actually, you might be curious to learn that over 80% of what you communicate is not what you say, it's how you say it, and then what you do with the rest of your body. So we're going to show you some strategies, and we're going to organize them in 4 different components. We're going to talk about the nonverbals when you're trying to...
Is it audible, everyone? Manisha, is it audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, it's audible. थोड़ा सा volume कम है but it's audible.
Sorry, sir.
थोड़ा सा वॉल्यूम लो है, अपने लेवल पे भी आप वॉल्यूम बढ़ा देंगे थोड़ा सा.
तो वॉल्यूम तो 100 पूरा है. आई थिंक मैं एसी.
हाँ, it is audible.
Okay.
The nonverbals when you're doing a transition into them doing reinforcement called seat work. And lastly, during seat work itself. So when you finish this, you're going to have a whole list of skills. Most of these skills come from our book, Envoy. It stands for Educational Nonverbal Yardsticks. But you can't print a book called Envy. So we stuck a small O in there. So it's called Envoy. It's your ambassador to understanding nonverbal classroom strategies in terms of how you get their attention, teach, transition to seat work, and seat work itself. Michael Grinder here. Welcome aboard. So how do you get the class's attention? Maybe be doing a variety of things, and you've got to figure out how to pause your body, indicate to them to pause. So if you're walking to the front of the room and you're saying, hey, look up here, that's not going to work because you're contradicting yourself. Your nonverbals are indicating walk, but your verbal is stop. So if I may, number 1 rule when getting their attention, pause. Whether you pause your full body or at least a frozen hand gesture. But once you indicate to them that you want their attention, keep it very brief and make sure you're just above the volume level of the class. That means if they're really working quietly, you have to go, class. If they're very noisy, class. So just above is our second skill. First one, freeze body. Second one, get volume above. Then freeze with the hand. Class. Class. The frozen hand gesture on an easy day works. On a hard day, the whole body has to be frozen. Once you have their attention, now start teaching. And one of the things you're going to find when you are teaching, if you can, talk with your hands. Hands communicate tremendous amount of information. And it's interesting to the class. But you have to make sure, as you are talking, from time to time, pause. And when you pause, keep the hand frozen because it indicates to them, I'm not done yet. There's more to come. The pause also helps whatever you say after the content and before the content, they're joined together. Why? Because of that frozen hand. Yes, it's so powerful. Whenever you can, if you want them to really remember something, make sure you turn and point to something visual. Now notice we didn't say just turn and point. Our eyes went with us. So eye and hand coordination, eye and hand looking at the same information will make a huge difference. If you don't believe me, try this. Be in your classroom and point to something, but look at the class. Where do their eyes go? Back on you. They're not looking where you're pointing. So to support your nonverbal hand gesture, make sure your eyes go with it at the same time. It may sound funny, but you have to be next to the content if you're too far away, because some of us are used to, here's my projection, and I'm looking down at what they're going to see, but it's way behind me on the board. It's too far away. You've got to have your body next to the content for them to understand. So if you want, whenever you are getting their attention and you want to make sure they go into some kind of content, go visual with that content. Eye and hand is supporting. So we've covered the skills in terms of how you get their attention. If you would, freeze body, or at least part of it, if not the full body, and then make sure your voice is above their volume. And then if you would, during that pause, frozen hand gesture, minimal. Then drop down to a whisper and you're fine. This third thing we said was if you can, show them something that they can go to immediately and make sure your eye and hand are pointing in the same direction. Now, once you get into teaching, as we mentioned, make sure you use your hands on a regular basis and pause on a regular basis. They'll make a huge difference. It allows you to breathe, allows them to catch their breath, and you are connecting what you said before and what you said after that pause. Now the question is, you have some questions that they're going to ask you. What do you do about those questions from a nonverbal standpoint? So let's pretend I'm off to the side of this room and someone on the same side I'm on asks me a question. What will happen is I will tend to step towards that person, engage them with my eyes, and what will be interpreted by that half of the room is, this is a private conversation. So they'll tend to go off task. They don't see it as pertaining to them. So here's what you want to do. Whenever you get a question and the hand goes up, try not to look at that hand, but make sure that you recognize that the hand went up. Then continue to talk. Walk over to the opposite side of the room. From this side of the room, go ahead and call in the person. Why is this so important? You'll be amazed. Wherever your eyes are, you are managing. Wherever your body is, you're managing. So make sure that you are on the opposite side of the room so that your body manages the people here, but your eyes looking over there manage there. That's why when you take speech 101, they always say, look at the back row of your audience. Why? Because your body will maintain engagement with the front of the room audience, and your eyes will maintain engagement with the back of the room. If you can, try to always have two places you can. What do you do if you get caught in the same side? So over here, and I've engaged with the student, I understand what they're saying, but I know I'm losing that half of the room. It's easy. Make sure you walk over the opposite side of the room of the student. Go visual with something, because your excuse was, I had to go over here to right. That means that if I get caught on the same side, just go to the opposite side of the front of the room, right? And you'll be absolutely fine. So now we've covered getting the attention and the idea of when you're teaching. Now we're getting ready to go into having them do the reinforcement work, sometimes called seat work. How do you go about doing that? So during seat work, you want to get out of the front of the room and you want to go out and help individual students one-on-one. To do that, you have to leave a representation of your expectations at the front of the room. How do you do that? Go visual. Make sure you're really detailed on what they have to do. Try to cover not only what are we doing, how are we doing, What are the materials that are needed? Make sure when do they finish and where do they put it? And then when they do finish, what do they do next? Cover those 5, you'll be fine in terms of them being involved. It's called exit directions because you're going to exit from the front of the room and go out and help students. All grade levels, when you have finished your exit directions, try to go like this. Any questions, if you teach middle school, about this? Otherwise, there are no rhetorical questions on the middle school level. When you have a question that comes up, in addition to answering it verbally, make sure you write it. Why? Because you're going to answer it 3 more times during SIGWA. Make sure you go visual with your information. Some teachers love to go down verbal, and here's my exit directions, and I use a different color for the additional information, because then it highlights them, it marks it off in their mind. That handles the transition. Then from 2nd grade on, there's a second skill, and you go like this. You may begin. Stay still for 20 seconds. Student starts coming toward you, try to stop them without making eye contact, indicate for them to go back. At the end of 20 seconds, you have created a very nice atmosphere. Even if they're doing cooperative learning, it's a lower volume level. So 20 seconds, have them engage, then start going out and helping. So now the last phase of the lesson during CWork. I'm here, I look over, someone is not engaged. I have to ask myself a very important question. Can they do the work? The answer is yes, I can manage. If the answer is no, they don't need a manager, they need a teacher. If they can do the work, say their name, they look up at you, I and him go towards and redirect them towards that exit directions so they go back on task. If you can, the most successful managers always manage from a distance. We know walking over and being next to them will gain their attention. But if you can do it from a distance, it's even more important. So Michael Grinder, to summarize what we're talking about today, it's enough.
Okay. So this gentleman has Grinder, Michael Grinder, has tried to cover a lot of small little nuances of non-verbal communication through this video, right? That if you had paid attention to that, I think there was a lot of small little things to learn from there. So yeah, this is what we need to learn about the power of non-verbal communication and how we can use this powerful tool to engage more people in your classes and make our classrooms more interesting.